And we're live. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Omiinka's production studio coming to you from Oracle Divination Network. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you by extending the right hand of fellowship and saying Habari Gani and saying Hotep and welcome. This segment is to equate to you that we have to be very, very cognizant now that we have identified what is going on and who is doing it. I pose a question to you. Is it now time to put a ritual in place? Is it now time, ladies and gentlemen, to put a ritual in place? Now, I want you to know the question that our topic is on, is this the response of the end of white male dominance? We have to come to a point in our life that we are either going to make a decision to transition out of their world and recreate our world as the original indigenous people. But we cannot go on any longer knowing what we have identified as the problem and knowing who the players are. Remember, I said this white male supremacist is a sports for them. And they got a game going. And they got players in position. But we don't know the position of the game. But now that we have listened to them and put our ears to the ground to hear what they're really saying, this is not about Bill Cosby. No, this is about African American, and this is about showing someone that the white male supremacist is still on the scene, coming to rob, steal, and to kill. And I want to also add, and he's coming to accuse the brethren. What does it say in the scriptures? He will come to accuse the brethren. And I want to send a shout out to Vicky Dillard for reminding me and us how we as women have got to come together. I want to send a shout out to FlyNubianQueen.com because I hear what y'all saying, sister. And I want to send a shout out to Bill Miles, 84 Conscious Channel. Y'all are doing the doggone thing, and you're making it plain so that the writing is on the wall. May I do you justice by supporting you and making it plain for my brothers and my sisters. Oh, yes, brothers and sisters, we have got to have a sit down and a discussion because we are not connected to what is going on here. We hear, but we're not seeing. So we want to bring this thing to the open because we got to make a decision now whether to get out or to create a ritual and put it in place. Because we know what they're dealing with. They're dealing with rituals and lynchings. They're pulling out their caustic bags and they're pulling out their ritualistic procedures and putting people in place to perform a ritual on our African American self. And we don't even see it. I told you that we had a magic stick. And we've got to go for our magic strip. And it's time to create some rituals. Water knows no enemy. It's neutral. Water knows no enemy. But you can speak to water and the ripples and the waves, and you can command the water to rise or to lower itself. It's time that we put a ritual in place. We know who the players are. We know that this is their sport and their game. White male supremacist is a sport and it is a game. We've got to get in the game, y'all. We can no longer be standing up beside the wall, not realizing that they're working magic on us, and we haven't a clue. But because we're the original indigenous people, we should know this. We should know that in the time when they are at a zero birth rate, their white male middle class men are dying from alcohol and drugs, and those that are in the baby boomer, they are no longer in control, and the opioid syndrome is killing off most of their young people. They are afraid and they're frightened. So when people do frightened things, white folks become enraged. And you know when they become enraged, they do things without thinking. They are going for the rituals now. The lynchings, the high-tech lynchings are taking place now. And when we've read our Bible and it tells us that they come to accuse the brothering women, they're accusing our men. And what must we do when they come to accuse the brothering? We must take out our rituals. It's time for us to look in the Cosmic record to see what we have to produce in the form of a ritual. I told you that we was going to have to go to our magic bag and we were going to have to call on our ancestors. I've been calling on our ancestors for a while now. And I want those sisters out there who line up with what I believe as far as looking at we have got to get in this particular game, but we have got to know how the game is being played. And we know now that they're dealing with rituals and they're dealing with their Cosmic records and they're whipping out their lynching magic on our black men. We know that it's an attack on us. This is not just a Bill Cosby situation. He was just one of the players that they're going to put on display. They're coming after many more. They've already decided they want to put charges against Chris Brown. And not to mention, they are going to try to come after many more. Now, Mrs. Gloria Aldrich is playing for the money. It's about a money game. And you see how she is reacting, going after these men for false cases. So, we know what the deal is now. We know how to identify the players and who they are. But you know, Bill Cosby was so busy believing that they would not do vindictive things to him or they would not pull out the wickers and use rituals on him. But they lured that man. He didn't even know it. And for you other black men that are out there, I want you to know that these white women are divorcing these black men like 20 going north because their people are telling them to. Because they're getting ready to put a devastating things on the black race, and they don't want their white women to be caught up in the middle of it. It's a time to get rid of black people now. They have no more use for us. It's a time that they feel like they can walk away from us. They have no more use. They feel like we're in the way. Do we need to get out? I'm asking the question, do we need to get out? Because on the movie it depicted it was time for us to get out. When this man looked back into the lives and relationship that he had with this white woman, he decided he wanted to get out. It was almost too late. He was too deep in. And there's a lot of black men out here dating and marrying white women, think that it won't happen to them. It can happen because they are scrounging around. At the 1300 hour, you have a white race that's enraged and they're afraid and their birth rate is not coming up and their white women are not having children and they're dying out. So they're in a state of emergency. We must also be in a state of emergency. And as much as we know and all the wisdom we have, why are we waiting for the 1300 hour to make our move to do something. We must bring our thoughts together. We must bring those hostess with the mostest out there on the radio station. We must align ourselves together to have a sit-down talk about what we should do. Which ritual should we put in place first? Because there has to be a ritual put in place in order to stop this thing. There is a ritual already put against us. We have to consult our hoodoo to find out who is doing this and how do we break this curse. Because it's definitely a curse. And it's been besetting us for a while. But we cannot sit around and think that they won't go for the jugular vein. They've already gone for the jugular vein. How much more should we endure before we make up our minds to put our heads together and say, what is our next move? We cannot be put on the offense. We must be put on the defense so that they will not have us running and responding without a plan. Every morning you wake up and you check the news, there's something else going on rather drastically that they're doing. We know that most of their mankind were engaged in sexual premises that were illegal and that were not acceptable. We know that their names have been engaged in all of these sexual predators. But now they're turning it around and making like it's our black men that are engaged in this. And we know this is not their way. And we cannot let them go down like this. And we must say we are not going to be apologizing for what our black men are not doing. We're unapologetically going to lift them up. And we're going to point the finger in the right direction of those that are who are predators and who are doing things and getting away with it. There are tons of white men that are not even on trial now, who have not even been indicted for the sexist things that they have done. And we even know that our president has confirmed to doing some sexual things even to his wife on testimonial that she gave. So we are not looking at a group of black men that are predators, and we're not looking at a group of black men that are criminals. These are things that they want the world to believe, so they have set up a prime case so that you look at your black men as the sexual predators, but they are not. So somebody is lying on our race, and we must break the curse of that lie. And we must call on water to be a witness, and we must do rituals and put them in place so that these lies will stop with their fiery darts. They've come to accuse the brethren, you say. Yes, and the Bible said they would. The Bible prophesied that they will come to accuse the brethren, and they're accusing the brothers left and right. Now, there are not enough prisons to lock all of us away. And they certainly won't be able to continue to do this because gods are on the scene now. Gods are on the scene. And we are the gods. And we are not blinded by what we see. And we know exactly what we have to do. And we have to call our ancestors, Eli. Ain't no two ways about it. You're going to have to grow up real quick and get spiritual. And you're going to have to call on the ancestors, and you're going to ask them to be present and be a witness and allow you to tap in to their melanin. Because what we're dealing with is very vicious. And what we're dealing with has a lot to do with us coming into our own. Whenever we're getting closer and closer into having rulership and being able to rule over them, they get more frightened than ever before, and they come after us more openly and blatantly. But I have a statement to make that it might be time to get out. It might be that time when we may have to get out if we cannot endure and stay the course. We might have to get out and formalize our own judicial system. when they don't have you to contend with and they have no jurisdiction over you, and you want to govern your own world, that is a time when you should make the decision to put your governing agency in place and get the hell out, because it's not going to stop. It's only going to get worse and worse, because they feel that as long as they have the upper hand in the courtroom over each of us black people, that they can do with us what they think they will. But do you not know that Jehuti and Maya, they reside over the courts? We only need to consult Jehuti and Maya, who were my judges, and ask them to reside over the courts. Ask them to take up residency there. But we've got to do something other than get on these airways and appear to be frightened out of our wits. Because God does not bring the spirit of fear. And we're God's. And we must know that we're God's, and we must accept that we're God's, and that we are not going to go down like this in history when it's our time to rule. We must understand that all these lies that they've been putting out there, and they're trying to take away the legacy of the black folks, even God himself has not permitted it. The Creator has not permitted it. But he's waiting for us to take dominion down here on earth and subdue it. Most of you know exactly what you're supposed to do, and this is not a time when you should be fearful or you should faint. This is a time when you realize how the game is being played, and you know they're playing for keeps, and they're playing cutthroat. Then you must pull your rituals out and your gifts out to also consult your oracles to see the path that you should take. But it's getting to the point where we must realize that this is the response we're getting now that the white male dominance is coming to an end, and they will no longer be on top. We know they were never on top in the first place. With a third of the richest white man in the world and a small number of them trying to rule, we knew it was only a matter of time before they start dying out, committing suicide, killing themselves off with drugs. We knew it was only a matter of time, because with a small number like that and all that stress upon them, it was only a matter of time before their time was going to collapse. And we're seeing it collapsing into madness now. And we're seeing that happen right before our eyes. And as we see that happen, we have to look at it. Do we wait for them to die off, or do we put a plan in place so that we won't have to be reactive and we can be proactive? A lot of things are going on with black men now. Those black men that have chosen to take their lot and their money to some white waste so that she can get and gain our wealth. Who cried with those black men when they were struggling? Who rubbed their backs when they came home from work? It sure as heck wasn't white women. It was those black women who stood with the black man in spite of what he was going through in the work industry and built him up and encouraged him to stay the course. But then you take your wealth, white black man, and you give it to a white woman. Why? Is that something that will exonerate you and make you feel like you've made it? Well, you see what they care about you. They don't give a darn about how much money you got. And making it in their society does not truly mean making it. You'd be better off to stay with your own kind and your own race, because you struggle with them and suffered with them. You can be risen with them as well. But you got to get out of these relationships that can become traumatized, and you can be put on display, and you can be challenged in a court of law just because you love the white woman. What's wrong with loving your dear black woman? We love you in spite of yourself. We went and put money on your books when you was in jail, and we came and took you home when they dismissed you. And we fed you, and we pampered you, and we loved you, and we prayed for you. but you turned your back on us and went for a white woman. I just wonder, what is Camille doing right now? They claim she's doing so much. Why hasn't she set up those groups out there that can come together to do something physically? I mean, building institutions so that when Bill gets out, maybe he'll think about running for an office somewhere where it really matters. Or maybe he'll think about taking that money that he donated to these know-nothing colleges and give them to these political parties that can really work for our community and him too. What is Camille doing out there other than sending letters? Is she in the background for a reason? Someone recommended that Camille divorce Bill Cosby. I wonder, is she contemplating that? She should be right out front on the microphone, making speeches, gathering camaraderie from the other black women so that we can continue to press on this issue. But where is Camille at with this? And who is she been talking to the last couple of weeks? And can we summons her present so she could tell us what is on her mind? Is she still fighting for her husband in secrecy, or is she out front formalizing groups, or should she be? Where is Camille Crosby? I want to know. I know you've cried many tears for Bill, but you need to be formalizing support groups that can help rally around you in your time of need. Now, I know you don't believe that Bill did this, but you need to do something for the black race so that it will not all be in vain. All of this will be worth it. Bill was only the case that pressed black folk to wake up before the big tsunami comes, because it was on its way in the beginning. This is just a tip off the old iceberg to wake us up. Now that we're awake, we need to be solely awake and be doing something, because we were doing nothing and waiting for this tsunami to occur. What is Camille Crosby doing? And who is she working with to support the knowledge of the case and to talk about how to change the course for black people? Now, I say that because I know Camille needs to be visible on TV every chance she gets, on every radio station. And Camille, if you can hear me, get out there and pump your brakes. Get your women together that need to stand with you and delegate them and tell them where to go. But before you get out there, make sure you have strategized what is your plan as to how you plan to get your husband out of there, and then when he gets out, how to keep him out of there so that we build institutions where you're protected and no one can come at your husband ever again. Yes, this is not just about Bill Cosby. This is about the nation of black people. They're tired of us now, and they want to discommunicate us and disconnect us. And they don't want us making any decision. No matter how much money or notoriety we've gained, they still haven't given us the power to be free. And that's what I want to touch upon. How do we get our real freedom? And if we're in this United States and we're not a part of the Constitution and we can have our Constitution taken at any time, then how can we truly say, and Bill's money wasn't long enough to pay for any rights in the courtroom. As much money as he had, his money just wasn't long enough. So it wasn't about the money he had, you said. What it was really about is that they are trying to press a point for black people to keep them in their places and to let them know that they have no way of equaling themselves to a white man, and no matter how much money they make, they will never be able to make the decisions and design a plan for their black people. Now, we say we want to get out. Should we move out of the country? Should we take all of our gifts and leave the country? Or should all of our gifts and leave the country? Or should we move to certain territories in the United States? But we certainly have got to come up with some plans, because we had not thought this thing out about Bill Cosby. We had no idea that it was going to be sprung on us this rapidly. We even did not realize that they would take it this far with Bill. But nevertheless, they have taken it this far. And now it's time for us to make the next chess move on the chessboard. This is a game, and I told you that white male supremacist is a sport for the white Caucasian. And we've beaten them just about every game we've played with the round ball. And we must realize that we know how to play the game. And we're going to have to get back on the chessboard and make the next move, because it's our time to either checkmate or king me. So I think they're going to have to king us, because this is a sport. And the black race don't lose at nothing that they put their heart in. And we got to put our heart in to being on this chessboard, knowing the proper way to move. And we're not looking for them to like us. We're not looking for them to admire us. We don't even care if they substantiate us, but they will learn to respect us. This is an out and out move to disrespect the black race. But we must vow that it will never happen again, because they put a whole race of black people on notice that we will put all of you in jail and that we will actually character assassinate your whole race. But you can't do that, because you know, you're forgetting that we're the first original people, and we taught the world how to socialize and how to civilize. We were not the ones in the caves grunting and walking around on all four, but instead we stood upright on our two legs, our two hind legs. And we were not the ones that had plagues and diseases and who were seeking out a cure. We were the ones giving the medicine for illness. And we're going to continue to give the medicine for illness. And it seems like the Caucasian is still ill. We know that psychosis brings about a form of racism. And they're suffering from psychosis. We need to give the medicine. And we know that you don't even acknowledge that you're sick, but you're a sick group of individuals. Some of the things that you've done sexually and some of the things that you pretended to pose that our black men have done, we know they haven't done these things, but you want to paint a picture. You want to make them the sexually violent people, and we know they're not. And it's time that black women come together so that we form this team of elders. And when we form this team of elders, we bring people together to talk about solutions. And what are we going to do? We can't keep waiting for something to happen to be able to be responsive. We've got to put programs in place. And I want to say for the record that a number of us are violently upset. Don't get angry. Don't get angry, because it'll only make you sin. And don't get upset. Get even. And the way you get even, you must come together with constructive people and lay down plans and delegate. But it's very vital that you should understand that this is a tactic that was going against our race of people. It wasn't a Bill Cosby issue. It was an issue of the nation of black people. And I want you to think about that, because we have much work to do, and we have to come to a conclusion as to how we're going to address this issue. Are we going to get out, or we're going to stay here and fight and finish this chess game, because we're next on the board to move. Which way will we be moving? Are we going to stay neutral, or are we going to make a drastic change and move into a king's position so they have to king us? I think it's their move after we get king. Let's get kinged on this, so once we're a king, we can move across the board freely. Thank you. O'Dowd, Baba Boy to y'all.